Hi, I'm Jim. If you've ever sent a message to someone you care about and then found yourself waiting for hours, even days, only to get a short, cold reply, then this video is for you. Have you ever wondered, did I do something wrong? Do they just not care anymore? And then felt anxious, unsettled, maybe even obsessed with that silence. Don't look away, because today I'm giving you the real answer. No fluff, no blame. Just the truth behind why dismissive avoidants take so long to reply. This isn't just about understanding them, it's about shifting how you see yourself. In this video, I'll share the real reason behind those long gaps you think mean disinterest, how the avoidant mind works, and why silence is their coping mechanism. Most importantly, how you should respond to protect your peace and self-worth, instead of spiraling into waiting and worry. This isn't a game of who cares less. This is about reclaiming your emotional power, setting healthy boundaries, and learning to love without losing yourself. If you've ever felt trapped in this cycle of silence, you need to stick around until the very end, because I'm sharing a practical strategy to turn waiting into empowerment, and trust me, it will completely change the way you see things. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you understand attachment psychology and build healthy, lasting relationships. Ready? Let's get started. They're not playing games. They're not trying to hurt you. And it's certainly not because you're not important. The truth is, when a dismissive avoidant takes forever to reply, it's deeply rooted in their emotional defense system and their fear of intimacy, a fear that often goes back to childhood. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does give you clarity and power over how you respond. Dismissive avoidants typically grew up in environments where emotional expression or seeking comfort was ignored or even punished. As children, they learned that to be loved, or simply to survive, they had to become emotionally self-reliant. They were taught not to be weak, not to depend on anyone. Over time, this lesson hardened into a protective mechanism. If I open up, I'll get hurt. If I let someone get too close, I'll lose my safety. And that defense follows them into adulthood. When you send a message, especially one with emotional weight like, I miss you, or are you okay, you see it as affection. But to an avoidant, their brain interprets it differently. It triggers a warning signal, intimacy incoming. They feel pressure, like you're stepping closer to a space they've worked hard to guard. And their instinctive response? Pull back. That's why they don't reply right away. For them, a text isn't just words, it's a doorway to closeness, something they view as risky. They delay, telling themselves, I'll respond later. But later stretches into hours or even days, because the more time passes, the safer they feel with that distance restored. This isn't a power game or manipulation. It's their way of regulating emotions and reclaiming independence. Many avoidants also subconsciously use delay as a way to balance emotional power. When they sense you reaching in, their reflex is to lean out. Sadly, this makes you feel ignored or devalued, when in reality, they're battling their own fear, not your worth. Here's the truth you must hold on to. Their silence does not define your value. It doesn't mean you're unattractive or unworthy of love. It means they're unprepared or unequipped for emotional closeness. That's their story, not yours. So what should you do when this happens? First, stop personalizing the delay. Don't let silence become a measure of love. Instead, ask yourself, what do I need to feel secure in a relationship? And can I accept this pace without losing my peace? Those answers matter more than when their next message arrives. This is just the beginning of the truth. When they delay replying, it's not a game, it's a defense. But that doesn't mean you have to wait in anxiety. In the next section, we'll dive into how you can stay empowered, set healthy boundaries, and turn the waiting game into an opportunity to reinforce your self-worth. As we discussed earlier, the delay in responses from someone with a dismissive avoidant attachment style isn't about playing games or trying to hurt you, and it certainly isn't because you're not important. The real reason lies deep within their emotional defense system and fear of intimacy, a fear that often took root during childhood. Understanding this doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does give you the clarity to make better decisions for yourself. They were shaped in childhood environments where emotions weren't nurtured, leaving them feeling unsafe with closeness. In their early years, they often lacked comfort, validation, or emotional responsiveness from caregivers. Warm gestures like hugs, soothing words, or emotional safety may have been scarce. As a result, they learned a critical survival lesson. If I want love and security, I must rely on myself. I can't depend on anyone. Over time, this belief hardened into a deep-seated protective mechanism. If I open up, I'll get hurt. If I let someone in, I'll lose control. And that system doesn't vanish with age, it follows them into adult relationships. When they receive a message, especially one with emotional weight, they often experience pressure and step back to self-regulate. For you, a simple text like, "I miss you," or "Are you okay?" feels like care and connection. To them, it can feel like an invitation into dangerous territory. Every word carries an unspoken expectation. Respond, engage, be emotionally available. For someone who equates intimacy with risk, this is overwhelming. Their nervous system sends an alert: danger, someone's getting too close. Their instinctive reaction? Pull away to regain control, much like a spring recoiling to its original position after being stretched too far. They see communication as functional, not as a constant way to maintain connection. While an anxiously attached person often interprets texting as proof of love and reassurance, avoidants view it as a tool for exchanging information, not emotional bonding. Silence to them doesn't equal disconnection. They can go hours or even days without responding and still believe the relationship is fine. This creates a major expectation gap. One partner needs prompt replies to feel secure. The other needs space to feel safe. Immediate responses feel like a loss of independence, so they delay to restore their sense of safety. Here's the truth. For avoidants, every demand for an immediate response feels like an invisible rope tightening around their freedom. They don't see replying quickly as an act of care. They perceive it as proof of dependency, forming a state they resist at all costs. So, they postpone. Not to punish you, but to calm their inner alarm and regain emotional equilibrium. And here's the critical transition. Understanding the reasons doesn't mean you have to accept the pain it brings. Because no matter how logical their behavior seems, it doesn't erase the anxiety you feel when your phone screen stays dark. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? How do you respect their need for space without abandoning your own need for emotional safety? The solution is not to text more, explain more, or prove your love louder. In fact, those actions almost always backfire and make them retreat further. The key lies in three elements: awareness, self-control, and healthy boundaries. First, stop personalizing their silence. When they don't reply, your mind, especially if you lean anxious, starts spinning stories. They don't love me. I did something wrong. But the truth is, their silence reflects their fear of closeness, not your worth. Every time you remind yourself of this, you reclaim a piece of your emotional power. Second, shift your focus from waiting to living. Sitting and staring at your phone minute after minute is emotional self-torture. Instead, redirect that energy into activities that make you feel alive. Work out, read, meet friends, advance your goals. This isn't distraction, it's a declaration. My life is bigger than this silence. Finally, set clear boundaries around communication. Healthy relationships require mutual respect. If timely responses matter for your emotional well-being, that's valid. But express it calmly and respectfully. Instead of accusing, "Why don't you ever text me back?" say, "I feel more connected when we both reply within a reasonable time. If that's hard for you, I need to know so I can decide what works for me." That's clarity. And clarity is kindness for you and for them. Here's the most important truth. Don't make your happiness dependent on their change. Avoidants can learn to communicate better, but only if they choose to. Your job is to choose what honors your self-worth, whether that means staying with adjusted expectations or walking away for peace of mind. This is where the power shifts back to you, because when you stop chasing, stop letting their silence dictate your self-esteem, and start showing up for yourself, everything changes. In the next section, we'll dive into specific strategies to communicate effectively with an avoidant without losing your calm, a practical guide to turning anxious waiting into empowered living. Now, let's look at another equally important angle: the impact of this delay on someone with an anxious attachment style. Because when an avoidant withdraws, they're not the only one reacting on autopilot, you are too. And this dance can quickly spiral into a painful chase unless you understand what's happening. For an anxious partner, a delayed response isn't just, "they haven't replied yet." It's a siren going off. The brain immediately interprets silence as rejection. They're abandoning me. What did I do wrong? Do they even love me anymore? The core fear of abandonment roars to life, and when that fear hits, your body and mind go into overdrive to soothe it fast. That's why many start double texting, checking online status, or stalking social media for clues. You might send another message, "What are you doing?" Then another, "Are you okay?" And when there's still no reply, panic rises, leading to behaviors you know you'll regret later, pleading, blaming, or even threatening to leave just to provoke a response. Ironically, these actions usually backfire. They push the avoidant further away. Every added pressure strengthens their defense system because they feel their independence slipping. This is the vicious cycle. The more you chase, the more they run. The harder you cling, the wider the gap grows. Here's what you must grasp. Their silence is not a verdict on your worth. It doesn't mean you're not good enough, not lovable, or not worthy of care. It only means their protective mechanism is in full force. They're trying to feel safe, unfortunately, in a way that makes you feel unsafe. Pause and reflect. If every silence triggers a crisis, what does that say about where your sense of value comes from? Chances are, you're letting someone else's behavior define your self-worth, and that's the most dangerous trap of anxious attachment. You hand over emotional control and live in a state of dependence. If they text back, "I'll be okay." But peace doesn't come from a text. It comes from your ability to create safety inside yourself even when no response arrives. And here's the truth most people miss. You can't control when they reply, but you can control how you respond. The key is awareness. When you feel the urge to send that third text, stop and ask, "Am I doing this because of a real need or because my anxiety is driving me?" Name the feeling. "I'm afraid of being abandoned," and remind yourself, this silence says more about them than about me. With that, you begin to step out of the storm and reclaim control. Here's the turning point. Understanding the anxious, avoidant dance is only the beginning. The real shift happens in how you respond. Will you keep letting old patterns run the show, or will you set a new rhythm where you honor both your needs and your peace? In the next section, we'll dive into practical strategies. How to communicate with an avoidant without losing yourself. How to set boundaries without starting a cold war. And how to turn silence into an opportunity for growth instead of self-destruction. This is the part that will help you move from anxious and reactive to empowered and grounded, and trust me, it will transform not just your relationships, but how you see yourself. Now that you understand the root causes and the anxious avoidance cycle, the next step is changing how you respond. This is where you take back control not by forcing them to change, but by adjusting your own reaction to their silence. Because here's the truth. You can't control when they reply, but you can absolutely control what you do in the meantime. The first and most important rule, don't personalize their silence. When your phone stays dark, it's easy to fall into self-blaming thoughts. I'm not attractive enough. They must not love me. I probably did something wrong. This is the psychological trap that hands over your worth to someone else's behavior. Remember, their silence speaks about them, not you. It reflects their fear of intimacy and their need for independence, not a lack of value on your part. Every time you remind yourself of this truth, you break free from the cycle of anxious spiraling. Next, focus on your life instead of waiting. Putting your world on hold for a text is the fastest way to lose self-respect and joy. Instead, redirect your energy into what lights you up. Exercise, learn a skill, see friends, dive into passions. When you invest in yourself, you not only ease the anxiety but also send a powerful message. My life is full, and a text doesn't define my worth. Another golden rule, avoid double texting or pleading. This can feel nearly impossible when your mind craves reassurance, but every extra message sent in panic strips you of your power and adds pressure to the other person. For an avoidant, pressure feels like a threat, triggering them to retreat even further. So resist the urge. Put the phone down and ask yourself, am I texting because I have something important to say or because my anxiety is in control? Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing and live independently, they often respond faster. Why? Because the sense of being trapped disappears. The space you create for yourself, is the same space they need to lower their defenses. Your independence doesn't just keep you calm, it makes you more attractive to them and to yourself. And here's the best part. You don't need to play games or fake being cold to achieve this. You simply need to truly prioritize yourself. When you do, your energy shifts. You stop radiating desperation and start exuding calm confidence, and that changes everything about how the relationship feels. The crucial transition is this: how you respond doesn't just bring peace now, it determines the long-term health of the relationship. Keep chasing, and the anxious, avoidant loop continues forever. Learn healthy responses, and you break the cycle. So the next question is, how do you set boundaries, express needs clearly, and stay soft without starting a cold war? In the next section, we'll dive into practical steps and real-life scripts to set boundaries without tension, voice your needs without sounding demanding, and maintain inner peace, even if they never change. This is where theory turns into practice, and where you reclaim your power, no matter what happens in this relationship. Now we arrive at the most crucial part, the core message you need to internalize to break free from anxiety and reclaim your power in love. You cannot force someone to change, no matter how much you love them. Real change happens only when it comes from within, when they choose it, not when you demand it. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. On the contrary, you hold the ultimate power, the power to choose where your energy goes. Start with the first principle. You can't control them, but you can control yourself. When you stop sending desperate signals, stop basing your self-worth on a text message, you step out of the victim mindset. Every time you ask, what response will protect my peace? Instead of, how do I make them reply? You shift from dependence to empowerment. Next, set clear boundaries around your needs. A healthy relationship cannot thrive if one person is in a constant state of anxiety. If their communication style consistently leaves you sleepless, distracted, or drained, it's time for a serious question. Am I in a relationship that nourishes me or one that depletes me? Walking away is not punishment. It's an act of self-preservation and dignity. And here's the truth you must engrave in your heart. Their delay does not equal your worth. A late response or a one-word reply does not define who you are. It doesn't say you're unlovable or inadequate. It only reflects where they are in terms of readiness and capacity for closeness. That is their story, not yours. When you stop letting silence dictate your emotions, you not only reclaim your power, you also create the conditions for real connection if it's possible. Because love only flourishes when two people meet in freedom, not in chains of expectation. And this brings me to a timeless truth from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. This is not just poetic philosophy, it's a roadmap for healthy love. Love is not clinging or dissolving into each other to the point of losing yourself. Love is standing strong on your own feet, yet choosing to hold hands willingly. It is parallel freedom, not suffocating dependency. Here's your moment of reflection. Are you loving from freedom where both grow together, or from fear where you trade your soul to keep someone? If the answer unsettles you, don't blame yourself. We all learned love from imperfect examples. What matters now is that you hold the pen to rewrite your love story, from anxious attachment to peaceful strength, from fear-driven chasing to dignity-based connection. In the next and final part, we'll tie everything together, a powerful conclusion, practical steps for either creating a healthier dynamic or walking away with grace, and the ultimate reminder of your worth. This will be your roadmap to lasting emotional freedom. We've walked a long road together, from understanding why dismissive avoidants delay their replies, to exploring how that affects those with anxious attachment, and finally, uncovering healthy ways to respond in Gibran's wisdom on love and freedom. Now, you hold the complete answer to the question you've probably carried for so long. What should I do when they go silent? The answer isn't about forcing them to change or reply faster. The answer lies in you, in choosing to love in a way that preserves your peace, dignity, and freedom. Here's what you must remember. Their silence does not reflect your worth. It speaks of their fear and coping mechanisms, not your value. You can't control them, but you can fully control yourself. How you respond determines whether you repeat old patterns or step into a new chapter. Setting boundaries is not distance, it's self-respect. Express your needs calmly, and if those needs remain unmet, You have the right to decide whether this relationship still serves your well-being. Love, as Gibran wrote, should be a moving sea between the shores of your souls, not chains that bind. This brings us to the ultimate truth. A healthy relationship is never a place where you sacrifice peace to keep someone. It's where both people choose each other freely, every day. If you find yourself living in waiting and anxiety, ask, am I loving from wholeness or from fear and lack? True love isn't a chase to fill an empty space. It's the meeting of two whole beings. If this realization hits hard, don't despair. The most precious gift you can offer another person is the strongest, most peaceful version of yourself. And to become that person, you must know when to give and when to let go. Sometimes, love means letting go not because you've stopped loving them, but because you've started loving yourself more. Before we end, hold on to this truth. Love does not bind, love liberates. Carry this with you as your compass for every future choice. If someone makes you question your worth over and over, if the connection feels like a battlefield in your mind, remember, you deserve a love that feels lighter, freer, and it begins with how you love yourself. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If what I've shared resonated with you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a video that helps you understand attachment, master healthy communication, and build the relationships you truly deserve. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or any questions you want me to cover in the next video. And always remember this, you are enough even in the quietest moments. See you in the next one.